Astrology somehow, I think the further we go with it, we find that it's applicable to all dimensions of human living, and also to planetary life and solar systemic life. There is an astrology even that governs vast constellations, and even, I'm sure, an astrology of the galaxies. It's not a prosaic, physical, personal thing. It is a way of explaining to ourselves the many interrelations between all of the different entities in cosmos and their particular quality, their impact upon each other. We want to know the relations between all things. Astrology is one of the greatest means of doing so. Okay, there are three basic statements here, and maybe I wonder if I wouldn't be best to perhaps comment a little as I go, rather than read afterwards. Three basic statements. The statement is frequently made that astrology is an exact science, but that is far from correct in spite of the many mathematical computations. Astrology is based, curiously enough, upon illusion, for as you well know, the zodiac is naught but the imaginary path of the sun through the heavens, and this as it appears from the standpoint of our totally insignificant planet. Well, the exactitude within astrology is somewhat confounded by the expression of free will. There are certain energies which are definitely made available at any particular time, and their availability will be well calculated and even measured, but what a human being does with them, or what any entity who is self-conscious does with them, is not exactly predictable. And so the exactitude suffers. In other words, you would think that by having a specific energy impacting upon a specific energy configuration, such as a human being, you would get an exact result. Well, if the human being were simply a machine, that would be the case. But the human being has the element of free will, as do all self-conscious beings, and they can choose how to use or respond to astrological energies. Astrology is based upon the illusion of the zodiac, and yet there is a very real esoteric basis for this illusion. We're told that our planet is totally insignificant. Well, we're even told that our sun, our star, is insignificant. And when you look at this magnificent star, Sirius, and its system, Sirius is simply a dwarf star, and there are other stars that are hundreds of thousands of times more powerful in their radiation than Sirius is. So the sun is not as stated in any sign of the zodiac. And of course he has to say that. It is true. The sun may be in a particular, appear to be in a particular sign of the zodiac, but it's not in it at all. It's simply transmitting energy through a certain Davic portion of the Earth's aura. Alan Leo, in his early book, Esoteric Astrology, in 1917, developed this idea. He had some profound insights about what the signs really were, so I would recommend reading what he said about that. The sun simply appears to be so in a sign of the zodiac as it passes between our little sphere, the Earth, and the constellations at any particular time or season. And it's not really passing, of course. The Earth is revolving around the sun and gives the illusion that the sun is passing through different signs and can be found against a different constellational background at any particular time or season. So, okay, there is here then the idea that we have an illusory situation. It's not how it seems is not how it is, but how it seems actually delivers energies esoterically to the Earth, which have a specific impact, And even working with how it seems, we can learn many things about quality and timing upon our planet. So let's see if there's further that I've written here. Unfortunately, I've written quite a bit. Mathematical calculations can be made to say anything, but exactitude of knowledge is not the same as the mathematical calculations. So we tend to like astrology so much that we want to emphasize its exactitude, but so far we are exaggerating for reasons that I've said. But later, when Manus hits its peak of development in another 500 years for this particular cycle, then we will know amazing things about this science that we can only now somewhat infer, somewhat imagine. Okay, we are very geocentrically centered, and this is the reason for the illusion. When we look out into the cosmos, we seem to see the Earth as the center of everything. We have to change our Earth-centered point of view, and yet it is a great reality as well. We do have to see from an Earth-centered point of view, but we also have to see from another point of view, and this is the reason for the development of heliocentric astrology. And even, well, we can't even look at the sun as the center. It's not. We have to become decentralized in our understanding during this age of Aquarius. Now, going on, DK has an interesting method, and I think you're going to notice this as we talk about astrology. He uses what are called occult blinds, meaning that sometimes when he means the word sign, he says constellation, and sometimes when he means constellation, he says the word sign. And this is to veil the mysterious interrelationship between the signs and the constellations. He talks about constellations as galaxies of stars. We'll get to that later. And he talks about signs as concentrated influences. So I think you can see that they are very closely related, but they are hugely different in their scope, in their magnitude. So this is called occult blinding. Obviously, Master DK no longer has a geocentric perspective. Perhaps he has a heliocentric perspective. Actually, he knows much more about the location of our solar system, our Earth, in relation to the cosmic logos, in relation to the galactic logos, and not just objectively, but subjectively. Scientists know a lot about the relative relation, in an objective sense, the positioning in time and space, but DK knows the subjective relations. Okay, so we do have, yes, it is an illusion. The way we practice astrology is based upon an apparency rather than a true reality, but this illusion, and this is what we have to realize, is effective in terms of humanity's normal time-space reality. Of course, that our time-space reality is also an illusion. But it's the effectiveness of astrology which we have to establish. And I think any sincere student of astrology has established that for himself, but we have to go much further than we have. Okay, let's go on. In the ancient days, it was believed that the Earth was the center of the solar system and that around it revolved the sun and all the other planets. This was the exoteric knowledge and position, though not the esoteric understanding. And, for long ages within the mystery schools, the heliocentric structure of our solar system was taught. When Copernicus developed this idea, he was simply externalizing an idea which for thousands and thousands of years had been obviously understood among the initiates. Later, when further discoveries brought more light to the human mind, our planet was decentralized and the truth was more clearly seen. Now, Aquarius is the great sign of decentralization. We're entering the age of Aquarius in a double sense, not only a 2,160-year age of Aquarius, but a much larger. I think he'll talk about that in just a moment. Our planet was decentralized and the truth was more clearly seen. The human being has to do the same thing. Right now, we are person-centered individuals. Everything revolves around our personality. When we begin to focus in the wider unitive soul consciousness, we become decentralized from the personality and we center ourselves in a larger consciousness of the soul, and even that will require at some point a degree of decentralization. Okay, much remains yet to be discovered, he says, and may even be as revolutionary a nature. And I think that's coming soon. We are going to no longer look so heliocentrically. We're going to find other centers around which we all revolve. It's already happening. From certain astrological angles, a similar process of decentralization must take place, and the solar system must no longer be regarded as a point around which the zodiac revolves, or through which the sun passes in its great cycle of approximately 25,000 years. A 25,000-year cycle is called a great Platonic year, and that's just an approximate figure. Sometimes it's been given as 25,920, and Blavatsky had yet another figure for it. The Tibetan rounds things off, and perhaps does so very purposefully to conceal the real figures, but also he may be giving us certain important averages. Astrologers with insight may deny that this is the commonly accepted attitude, yet for purposes of clarity and in connection with the general public, the inference is permitted and accepted by the ignorant. So we do not explain to every individual that we do not have a geocentric, heliocentric situation here. We act as if geocentrism is useful, and indeed in astrology it is useful. Upon this theory anent the zodiac rests very largely what we call the great illusion, and I would have you bear this in mind as you study with me the newer approaches of this greatest and oldest of all the sciences. Let me just underline that somehow. Newer approaches to this greatest and oldest of all the sciences. Astrology is a science which must be restored to its original beauty and truth before the world can gain a truer perspective and a more just and accurate appreciation of the divine plan as it is expressed at this time through the wisdom of the ages. So DK speaks of the usual and unenlightened conception of the Earth in relation to the solar system. It is, of course, by modern educated man understood differently, but astrologers retain the geocentric system because it does work in relationship to the development not only of the personality, but of the soul. So both perspectives are simultaneously true. The geocentric approach is effective, but the heliocentric and cosmocentric will be realized as increasingly true. Let's see what else we have here. Okay. The Copernican revolution, yes. The Earth decentralization is extremely important. Our Earth and our solar system have been marginalized within the galaxy or the island universe.